let's talk about Tennessee. Um, Here is the Tennessean headline 103. Again, the Republican won. Uh, if you look at the coverage, basically say everybody says the same thing. Republican Van Epps wins special election in Tennessee's 7th district, Tennessee's first special congressional election in more than 4 decades. That's kind of incredible. And the coverage generally says, what's true, which is not a disaster for Republicans, but everybody agrees if this is what happens going forward, it will be a disaster for Republicans. 108, please. This is Matt Whitlock, who's been a guest on this platform before. Here's what he says. This is one of the biggest flashing red light warning signs we've seen yet for Republicans. If every House district in the country shifted left by this amount, about 15 points. Again, the gap between what Donald Trump got in the district versus what the Republican got last night, we would be looking at a blue wave far worse than 2018. Matt Whitlock estimates 43 seats flipping. The chair of the DNC, Ken Martin, put this on Twitter, 107A, agreeing with Matt Whitlock. Afton Bain's overperformance is a flashing warning sign for Republicans heading into the midterms. I think that's the same metaphor as Matt Whitlock used. Republicans had to spend millions just to barely hold on to the seat. And there's some blind quotes like in Politico saying, this is a disaster. But obviously we're 11 months away. So let's start. Kristen, what would make Republicans confident that if this very liberal candidate in a very red district shifted things 15 points, what would give Republicans reason to believe that this won't happen in all these other districts where if Democrats have stronger candidates, they could actually, take back the House majority quite significantly?
So I'm not totally sold on the theory that a better or different candidate would have done better in the situation on the Democrat side. Obviously, she had so much in her oppo file. She had a lot of crazy things that were said. But I think she also riled up the base. And so if you had someone that was maybe more, dirt road Democrat, would they have done as well in the Nashville area and things like that? So I'm not totally convinced yet, but I do think, it is worth a debate on the Democrat side on whether or not they nominate more Aftons or more Spambergers. And that's what they need to figure out. And frankly, there's not one answer. Every district is going to be different. And that's what both parties really need to understand about the results from last night, is that you can't just copy and paste and apply this to all the other elections. I mean, this was, if there was ever a, not litmus test, but, kaleidoscope. I talked to one person last night who said, wow, this was a huge margin blowout for Republicans. And another person with Trump derangement syndrome who said, wow, really close. So, I mean, everyone is going to see what they want out of this. I think for Republicans, if there is a bright side, it would be that, in the last minute, we were able to get out some mid-propensity voters, which we haven't been able to do in the last few rounds of special elections. But I think the bigger warning sign for me is that, there was not low turnout. We had midterm election turnout, which is what we're going to see across the board next year. And we still shifted 13 points in the wrong direction. So that's something that we have to grapple with. This wasn't just a wow, voters aren't turning out. Voters are excited. They're just not ours right now.
Yeah, but see, if Ken Martin, of course, has to say this is all awesome, but if you were staffing him and he said, what wasn't great? Like what about the result wasn't great for us? Is there something you see that you'd warn him about?
I would just warn him about candidate quality, honestly. I mean, I do think, especially coming from Georgia as a Southern Democrat, she just wasn't it. I mean, to call somebody the AOC of anything just does not play with Democrats that exist in that Southeast region. Her past tweets when she was a private citizen with defund the police. I mean, defund the police never gained traction anywhere below the Mason-Dixon line. That was always something that ended up in very deep blue cities as messaging. I think it's candidate quality for every single district. And I do think that people maybe closer to the center do galvanize voters for places that don't feel as deeply blue as in New York City. Like Nashville is a blue, but it just feels like a different kind of deep blue.
Yeah.
And it's crazy she could say, I hate Nashville and I hate country music, and people still came out in Nashville and voted for her. So
yeah, that is definitely not something you'd want on your resume if you're running in Nashville. Okay, let's talk about her message and then switch to the president. either of you disagree that to the extent she overperformed, which she did, that it was because she emphasized the economy, healthcare, cost of living, affordability? Do you guys agree that was her strongest message and likely accounts for her success, or not necessarily?
I actually don't think she was that great of a messenger. Every interview I watched with her was really rough. I
Yeah.
actually think growing unpopularity and dissatisfaction with this administration boosted her a lot more than if she was just standing alone. I think if she was running a special election at the top of this year, it would have felt differently than at the bottom of this year when folks are looking to 2026 for like some kind of economic relief.
Kristen, do you think economics played a role in her overperformance?
I think it did. And so I'm going to like what the voters are seeing. A lot of them weren't really seeing her interviews. They're not watching MS Now
Yeah.
or whatever the channel is. They're seeing the wave of advertising that came in the final few weeks. I think it was like 2.3 million to 3.1, almost equal, both parties. And her ads were pretty good. I mean, I watched them and I thought I would run that ad with a Republican in another district. I mean, talking about grocery prices and cost of living. And the key that I think whoever did her ads, I mean, she was a bad candidate, bad interviews, but her ads themselves, they were able to pin it on, and hey, Republicans and Trump don't care about fixing it, which is frankly out of the Trump playbook. It's what he did last year, saying that Harris cares more about all these social issues and not about your pocketbook. And I think her ads did that, which is why she was doing so well, because I mean, at the end of the day, the voters are seeing the paid advertising more than they're seeing her podcast or whatever's like Twitter is not real life. And so they're not seeing all the, rage tweets that the right was doing about her quotes. They were seeing those ads. On the flip side, the hits on her, because they were so plentiful, I think we were almost throwing too much mud at the wall. I think we probably could have killed her a little bit earlier had we honed in on one or two, like when she was saying she was against ICE, when she was against the police. I mean, if you really honed in on one of those and just focused on it, I think that might have been a little bit more effective on the onset instead of kind of hitting. At some point voters get overloaded and they don't even start believing what you're telling them.
Yeah.
So I think her advertising is good.
Yeah.
I think my wonder is having a Harris come out, do you think, Kristen, like Republicans, I just saw a lot of them grasp onto that and they were like, why would she have Harris come out? Do you think Harris was a boon at all? To me, it was really a non-factor. She could have come, she could have not come, but it'll be interesting to see how Dems use Harris, and then also if Republicans will point to it every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.